That's very American.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. We're here tonight with Ted Jones, the owner and creator of Riverview Coffee Roasters. And he's going to tell us everything you want to know about coffee and how he got into the business. Okay, take it away. How did you get into the coffee business? It seems like a very unique and specific industry.
Yeah, well, I started out by just being a coffee drinker and loving to get coffee every day. And I found that I was going out and I'd try to make it at home. It wouldn't come out as good as when I went out. So I'd go out and get a cup every single day. And then one day I found a coffee shop that kind of blew my mind in the way that it had all these different blends and they had these whimsical names. So you didn't really know what was in them. But the main thing it taught me was that there was more to coffee than I had thought before. And I realized that just with different coffee beans from around the world and different ways that you roast them, you can create all different flavor profiles. And, like most people, I was just used to the classic American dark roast or whatever.
Right.
So that was an enlightening experience for me. And then I quickly realized, well, spending $4 or $5 per cup every day is going to add up quick. So I tried buying pounds of their coffee and then realized that I wasn't getting the same results at home. I was doing things like leaving it on my fridge and for a month at a time. And anyway, along the journey, I realized that freshness makes a huge difference in the coffee brewing. And as I started looking up how to brew coffee and going into the finer details, I saw that a video where a guy said, if your coffee isn't about a week from roast or less, then your coffee's too stale. Look how creams up. He brewed it and it creamed up so beautifully. And I thought, oh, my coffee doesn't do that. So all of a sudden I thought, what if I could figure out a way to roast it myself? And then I started doing that research and figured out how to roast it for myself. But of course I burned it and then I'd under roast it. And I went through a whole journey with that, just learning how to make it good for myself. Eventually I started getting results so good that I wanted to share it with all my friends and family. And I thought, this coffee's way better than anything I've ever had before. So
Wow.
felt like I was onto something, that I was excited about. But one day I was at my old career and it dawned on me, this isn't my career anymore. Coffee's my career now. I need to share this with people.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
you've shared it with me, and it is really good coffee. I can confirm that that's true. Will you share with us what was the coffee company that inspired you? Or is
Yeah.
that like,
Philz Coffee.
oh, really?
So they tend to be on the darker end of things.
Yeah.
Just by going through all their different lights, mediums, and darks and getting, ones that really I could tell the difference of, that was exciting to me. It just showed me that coffee isn't just coffee like most people often think.
And will you share with us, or is this like, don't tell us how to do it, then we'll buy it from you? But how do you get from the point of like, because coffee beans are green, right? They're like green fruits. How do you get those? Most of them, as far as I understand, are grown in South America. So you have to import, roast them, which I don't even know how. Like, do you do it in a frying pan and then grind them and then drink them? So can you share with us what that process looks like? Are you willing to tell the secret?
Yeah, of course.
I would never roast my own beans, by the way. So.
So when I was first starting out, I was just trying to find any coffee I could find small amounts of. And, I looked around the internet and found some different ones, and they would have literature on them that made no sense to me. It would say all these different wild fruit notes, and it would say SO, good SO espresso or something. And I'd be like, what does that even mean? SO, look, then I learned that meant single origin, which means from one specific place or one specific farm. And I tried doing it in an air popcorn popper, and that worked really well, but you'd only get about 2 cups of coffee out of it. Then I tried doing it in the cast iron skillet, and then I'd, be scorching it all the time, but I could do a whole bag of coffee at a time.
Yeah.
And tried all different ways like that. And eventually I realized that it was hard for me to get a consistent roast because I was changing the kind of coffee and I was changing how much I was roasting all the time. So I had no consistency,
Right.
And then when I thought about supplying it for other people, I realized I needed something I could grow into with more volume, and started looking for, bigger suppliers. But along the way, what I realized was really important is all the details of what happens to the coffee before you get it.
Right.
So as far as the altitude it's grown at, the type of soil, the surrounding vegetation, the moisture content, the drying methods, all these different things that lead to the perfect cup of coffee. And I quickly realized that there were only a few importers that were really focused on those details and were willing to pass them along.
Oh,
And
interesting.
sometimes I would have to ask importers, go through 20 emails just to find everything I need to know about a coffee, because they're not giving this information up. So over time, you find a few that you really like to work with that really have great product, and you learn to trust their product and what they say as you use it over time. And then I got into, well, why don't I create a whole bunch of different varieties? And I sewed up a little bag and put dividers in it and put my different varieties and put all those specifics on it, like the varietals and every detail I could, and then set out and shared it with the people, and let them choose what they wanted.
Interesting. So how do you roast it now? Do you have like some like extra large popcorn popper? Do you have a shop? Where do you do it?
I do have air poppers, but I have a 12 pound roaster.
Okay.
Yeah, and I generally try to keep it, you can go up to about 14, 15 pounds, but I try to keep it a little under capacity and go for around 10-pound batches, just to keep the consistency of the roast really smooth and nice. And I don't use air roasting like a popcorn popper. It's like a natural convection gas, propane, with a nice thick metal in between to really diffuse the metal or the heat really smoothly to get an even roast.
Okay.
And then the roaster will have nice big stirring vanes inside that keep the beans moving constantly while they're roasting.
Yum.
And
You're
then
making
it's
me
just a
want.
matter of getting used to knowing how to raise the temperatures at certain times and how to treat different coffees, because different coffees that even are from the same country but processed differently after picking
Mm-hmm.
be a completely different style to roast. So, I had to learn about those coffees that would get out of control on me and I would burn and all that stuff
Right.
over time,
Right.
until I got to where it's just instinctual and I can feel what's going on with the coffee as I'm doing it, like the way other artisan food makers would make their product.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then what I love about your company is that you actually hand deliver the coffee right when it's been roasted. So if you want it fresh, like there's no better way. And then you were telling me last time we were messaging that you used to sell wholesale in stores. And do you do that anymore? Or is it just subscription based and delivery based on like individual orders?
Yeah, I do shipping nationwide, ship them out the night I roast them, and then deliver locally the day after. And I
Uh-huh.
did do wholesale, but not with the beans. I did it with different beverage products. I did bottled espressos that were like quadruple shot bottles, and I had a couple different flavors, like a traditional and an exotic. And then I did one that was an espresso concentrate for a while, that was a syrup that you could make iced coffees with, make like an iced latte, but some people wanted a sugar-free version, and that's why I ended up coming up with the pure quadruple shots.
Yeah.
But yeah, along that way, I found that I wasn't as excited about making the brew and bottling it, and I wasn't as excited about selling in grocery stores and that kind of thing as I was in having one-on-one relationships with people and focusing on the beans and giving them away, teaching them how to prepare their coffee to make it the very best possible, because it's always going to be better when you grind it and brew it on the spot.
Yeah. So what is your favorite coffee drink and what's the best way to prepare
Well, years ago, people would have said I was a guy that liked a little coffee with my cream and sugar, but
it?
over time, as I started testing all of my roasts, I wanted to taste everything pure to, really get the essence of each different coffee. And now it feels adulterated if I add something to it most of the time. I like to do a latte sometimes, but really my favorite is a pure Brazilian natural processed coffee, or a pure Guatemalan style coffee, medium roasted, or a light roasted Ethiopian Yirgacheffe coffee. So it's more specific coffees from specific regions processed a certain way and then roasted to a certain level that really brings out the best in them.
And then what do you use to actually brew the coffee?
I go through phases. So now I can go through a whole repertoire of different brewing methods, but I went for a while doing AeroPress brewing every day. I don't know if you've heard of some of these. And Chemex, most people have heard of Chemex brewing.
I've seen them. I think we tried like a $20 3-ounce shot of coffee one time when there was a pop-up. I was like, we're not spending $3 or $20 on a 3-ounce cup of coffee. And I couldn't even finish it. Like, it was so strong. It was good, but it was like, woo!
Yeah. The really fresh coffees will kick your butt,
Yeah, they apparently had just had it flown in from Africa or something that morning.
Well, it sounds like a geisha if it was that expensive, because that's like the most famous, most revered varietal these days.
It might have been like, it was like the top tier on the menu, and I was like, that's insane, we're not doing it. And my husband's always like, it's the experience. So I'm like, all right.
That's a good attitude.
It was good. But so I've seen that, what do you call it, Chemex or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
a pour over one. It's like an hourglass.
Yeah. I like
the Clever Dripper is one that I supplied a lot of my customers with, that they all use it to this day. And once in a while they'll contact me and say, hey, I need a new one of those brewers, and that's a real simple one because it combines drip brewing with French press brewing and eliminates the drawbacks of both. So it keeps it like the French press, but then it has a valve and you put it over your mug or your carafe and it'll let all the coffee through a filter to give you a cleaner profile, but give you that rich steeped quality that you get.
Yeah, because we used to use a French press until we just upgraded, but I would hate that last sip. It would always inevitably have the chalkiest ground, nasty sludge at the bottom. So that's cool. I like that idea. Have you ever read the book, The Go-Giver?
No, I don't know that.
I'm going to send it to you because it reminds me of your story. And I love the fact that you're in a business that's actually a product or an industry that you're selling a product, but for you, it's about the relationships, which you're going to love it. So I'll send it to you.
Okay, great.
What else do you want to share with people about your company and you and how they can find you and get you, and tell us about your subscription.
Yeah, so the way I created the whole format is to give people the same experience I was giving myself before I started this. That was roasting the coffee and then having it immediately for that first 1 to 2 week period after, when it's really popping. Like, it's like getting something from an amazing bakery.
Yeah.
Instead of getting it at the grocery store kind of difference.
Yep, totally.
And even most cafes, they don't start serving their coffees until at least a week after they roasted, and often it can be even months or years,
Really?
So, oh yeah. I mean, there's a big, there's a real big company everyone knows that they serve some pretty old coffee. But so the way I do it is, you go on the website, you can see what items I have currently, whether, what country, what kind of flavor profile, and then you can pick one that sounds good to you and then try it out that way. And then in the menu, there's suggestions for different brewing supplies and there's brewing tutorials on the major brewing methods. And then I'm always in touch anytime, which gives you a little bit of a personal touch to it. And I always like to know whenever I get someone new that orders, I ask them about their experience with coffee and how they like to brew it and how they found out about me, and start a relationship there, and some people like to talk more than others, and I get to know that. But then I have the subscription, which the way I developed that was I would bring it to people's doors. Would love the coffee, but they were so used to buying it at the grocery store that they'd think, oh, darn, I ran out at 6 a.m. I don't want to bother Ted. When's it even going to come? If I do, I know he roasts it to order. And so they end up going and getting their old coffee. And often what really gets them clicked into the subscription is that coffee that used to be their favorite now kind of tastes, like crap to them.
Yeah, totally.
And then what I did initially is I was like, dang, I'm not getting a lot of reorders at the beginning. So then I went out and talked to the people and they said, thank God you came back. We loved it. It was amazing, all this stuff. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just order more or call me? And they say, oh, all those reasons, right? Yeah. So eventually I started just leaving it at the door and then saying, hey, I know that you like this type of coffee. I figured you're about due for it. I'm sorry I missed you, because I realized I can't just keep going back to the same doors over and over and over.
Right.
And I would always cross my fingers thinking, oh God, I hope they don't tell me don't do that. I didn't ask for this coffee, but
Yeah.
never once did that happen. Every single time people said, thanks so much for knowing what we like, when we
Yeah.
want it. Thanks for trusting us to pay you later and all
Yeah.
that. So I said, why don't we create like a monthly payment method so that you don't have to think every time you need it ordered, and I can bring it to you just after roasting at the pace that you like to drink it. And
Yeah.
so if you go on the website and you go to subscriptions, it'll give you an option for the kind of coffees you like, and then it'll give you a frequency of how many bags you want at what pace.
Yeah.
And then you just get charged once a month, and from there, I customize it for you. So, you send me a little note saying, I really don't like light fruity stuff, or I really don't like anything dark roasted. It tastes burnt and bitter to me, or whatever that is. I love nutty coffees or something. And then I customize it the way you like it.
That's awesome. I'm sold. I'm going to have to sign up. I know you've been trying, you're like, sign up for a subscription. I'm going to do it. Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I love that you think outside the box to serve our community and the clients. I think that's huge to be in business right now and today. And I think like it's even better to deliver coffee. Like, who doesn't want coffee delivered to their house? And especially during COVID, when people don't even want to leave their houses. So I think you're like providing a huge service, and I'm a huge coffee fan. So that's awesome. And we thank you for being with us and serving our community. If you guys want coffee or coffee subscription, reach out to Ted Jones at Riverview Coffee Roasters. I'll put all your information down below, or Sarah will.
Yeah, riverviewcoffeeroasters.com. It's, Google, easy to find.
Yeah, totally. Anything else?
Just thanks, Shamika.
Thank you, Ted.
Having fun. We'll make it fun.
Yeah, awesome. All right, I'm going to stop recording.